Brandon, what's more likely for week 1? Deshaun sits out or Deshaun gets traded?
Gets traded. In New England, there isn't one guy bigger than the team. In New England, this is a team that's done a great job of winning year after year after year because they stand on the table and preach. We eliminate distractions. We don't have a distraction. They actually have a sign at the front of the door when you walk in that says, check your ego at the door. So why do I say New England? Nick Caserio, the general manager, that's where he spent a lot of his career. I can't see Nick now coming to Houston and embracing a different philosophy, embracing a different approach. So I don't see this happening because this guy's not showing up. So what you're saying is, well, we're going to embrace distraction, and that's not the New England way. That's not the Patriot way, Nick.
I agree, Brandon. He's more likely to be traded, and I also am going to keep hammering this point. April 29th, folks. There is not going to be any Deshaun Watson movement until either the day of the draft or a couple days before the draft, and that is for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, with Russell Wilson, the story getting bigger and bigger and bigger, Houston absolutely wants to wait and see if Russell is traded because that then sets the floor for compensation because Deshaun is as good as Russell and way younger and on a better contract. Reason number 2 that they are going to wait until the draft is because then you will have more clarity about what players you like, how much you like the quarterbacks, and maybe the most important and underrated reason is this. You're only allowed to trade draft picks 3 years into the future. So right now, the best a team could offer the Texans is 21, 22, and 23 first-round picks. Once the draft starts, that kicks into 2024. So if you're talking about getting 4 first-round picks, it's not even allowed by league rules until April 29th. So I do think Deshaun's getting traded. I do not think it's going to happen until we are at the draft, Wilds.
You know what? That's a great take. But if I was Nick Caserio, I wouldn't be able to wait, Nick, because the Texans have no first-round picks, no second-round picks. They have to start planning on pick number 67. And it's just a boring draft room. Like, just like fantasy draft. Like, hey, who do you want? Oh, let's see. Let's figure out, our big board, 67. Let's just wait, 67. Meanwhile, the Dolphins have got 3, 18, 36, and 50. And the Jets, not going to the Jets, Brandon, but just to get you excited, have 2, 23, 34, and 66. So I'm Nick Caserio. I'm still sort of like I'm starting to return voicemails. How about that one? Not letting everything. Hey, by the way, go ahead.
Wild, I'm sorry to interrupt you. At pick 67, you know who I think they can get? Who will still be there? Rudy Gobert. I think Rudy Gobert is going to be available at pick 67. So if they I think he's still going to be on the board. I think he's still on the board.
It's a little early for shots to be fired to Utah. We'll get to that portion of the show, Nick. On to Cleveland now. Baker and the Browns talking contract extensions already, but the Browns GM said he won't use Carson Wentz as a cautionary tale when it comes to signing his quarterback to a big deal, a big extension. Brandon, you agree or disagree with that strategy?
I agree, Jenna. And Nick, hear me out here because I don't want to sound like a walking contradiction. You know I don't believe in Baker Mayfield. But when I'm comparing him to Carson Wentz, look, it's a better situation. You know, Baker Mayfield is a better situation. It's a different situation. They have a different makeup. The reality is the guys in Philly, they didn't like Carson Wentz. I mean, I can go back to when he signed his first big deal. And he flew his guys in, and he didn't want to pay for the Sprinter van to get him to his Texas estate. I can go back to just how he handled the situation and said, it's either me or Jalen Hurts. So in Cleveland, they like this guy. I don't know why, but they like this guy. You know, Juice really likes playing with him, okay? So you can't really compare these two. Different situations, different makeups.
All right, first of all, what a great, juicy nugget that he wouldn't pay for the Sprinter van from the airport to the estate. I love that nugget. Somebody clip that and aggregate it, please. Brandon Marshall says Carson Wentz too cheap to pay for Uber Black. Thank you. All right, here's the thing. And I also don't want to sound like a walking contradiction, but I think they should use Carson Wentz as a cautionary tale, not because Baker's not awesome. He is awesome. But you should look at the Wentz and Goff situations and what happened to those teams, and you should contrast them to the Mariota, Jameis Winston situations and what happened to those teams, the Titans and Bucs, teams that waited versus teams that were a little trigger happy. And you need to ask yourself this question. Are we 1,000% sure about Baker? I'm 98% sure, not 100% sure. So I would.
Your best take ever.
I'm not saying I wouldn't sign him to an extension, but I wouldn't preemptively, Wildes, sign him to a record-breaking extension. And if that's what Baker wants, by the way, I feel the same about Josh Allen, and I feel the same about Lamar. If any of those guys want record-breaking contracts, I need to see it for one more year. If you want to meet me in the middle on a deal, then we can get something done now. So I do think they should learn from the mistakes of others, Wildes.
Okay.
Resident
so
GM?
A few things. One, Andrew Berry was in Philadelphia, so he saw Carson Wentz up close. And here's why I think Baker's struggles bode well for him. He's been through the fire. He's had a bunch of coaches. He's had the losing season. Carson Wentz cautionary tale is like, oh, Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. I'm feeling a little bit insecure. And then you draft Jalen Hurts, and then I sort of fall apart. Granted, his offensive line was bad too. But the fact that Baker has gone through so much adversity makes me feel very confident. Now, the aliens thing, Jenna, does that give me more confidence in Baker or less? It's for another show. I'm starting to think more. If you feel that confident in yourself, you're like, you know what? I saw aliens. Boom, I believe in myself. I think that bodes well for him.
It is bizarro world. Brandon's like, hold off, or Nick's like, hold off. Brandon's like, pay him, and you're talking about UFOs giving you more confidence. I can't handle it. We're moving on. On to Baltimore now. Ravens proposing a new overtime rule. The rule is called spot and choose. So one team picks where the ball starts. The other team picks whether to start on offense or defense. Ravens think this involves more strategy. It minimizes the impact of the coin flip.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon. You in or out on the Ravens spot and choose idea?
Well, you did a good job of laying that out because I definitely was confused. Didn't know what the hell was going on. Look, this is too much. Let's not overcomplicate football. You know, flip a coin, figure out who gets the ball. I like the adjustment we just made a couple years ago. So, Nick, I think they're overcomplicating this thing, and hopefully they're not getting other people to buy into this. I'm out.
Nope, this is a great idea. It's a brilliant idea. Anything in sports that involves more utility for people like me and less utility for superstar athletes like Brandon, I am all for. You know what? So this is a great idea. Also, by the way, Ravens and Jenna Wolf, this will help you. This is a excellent parenting strategy. Jenna has a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old at home. If they were ever allowed to have dessert, which they're not, maybe on like the summer solstice, here's what happens. There's one piece of cake. They have to split it because Jenna doesn't let them have any sweets. Who's going to get which piece? What are we going to do?
One split, one chooses.
It's the I cut, you choose strategy. That's all it is. You cut it, I get to pick which slice. You are then inclined to make it as fair as possible. So, Kevin Wildes, if it's 2034 and your Patriots are finally back in this playoffs and the Chiefs are going for ring number 8 and we get overtime of the AFC Championship game and the Chiefs say, hey, we're going to spot the ball at the 8-yard line. You want offense or defense? You trust your team, Jared the Javelin, in year 14 to go 92 yards? Or do you think you can stop Patty Mahomes from going 92 yards? It's fascinating. It's a great proposal.
Okay,
I love it. Go ahead, Wildes.
I love it as well, but here you sort of showed your cards because you're the kid in high school who was like, oh, extra credit assignment. You want this to go through because you want to like get in with all the other, football analytics guys. It's like, we figured it out. It's always the 12.5-yard line. Yeah. You always do it, and you always take the ball. So the idea that would be super fun, I think, would eventually go away as the, Brad Pitt of the Moneyball world would just figure it out.
You know what's also fun, Wildes? You know what it allows us for? On a sleepy Monday morning or a Friday morning after a Thursday night game? Another thing to criticize coaches for. I'm all
like
for it. Add more things we can